Maja, Greja. Maja, Greja. My name Maja, my surname Greya. I chose the surname. I made it the way I make my objects. I try, I reject, I choose. Here is the 50-year story of how I arrived at it. When I was 6, I asked my mother, all serious, how I could change my name officially. I wanted to be Vesna. Every other girl in my childhood, real and fictional, was Vesna. And almost none were Maja. My name singled me out, and I did not like that. I wanted to belong. I wanted to belong to their girlhood, and I thought the name was my ticket. Changing a name was very complicated, Mum said. So I didn't, and I stayed Maja. A name given to me because I was born in May. Then the teenage years came, and my surname became another rite of passage. Boys liked me, so they shamed me. Using my surname in an explicit rhyme, they chanted whenever I walked past. It was my first experience of language used against women. The violation lodged itself, and the sound of my surname became its reminder. Over a decade later in England, the second wave of the sound offensive began. This time, less personal and more bureaucratic and linguistic. The spelling of my name, M-A-J-A, pronounced by English speaker, was an affront to my sense of self. Maja, they'd say, Maja. An angry, wrong, savage sound that was not my name. I hated it. It was unbearable. So I started misspelling myself, and I became M-A-Y-A, just so that I can hear myself, so that I can recognize myself in my communications, in my relationships. On a good day, I'd think bittersweetly just how ironic it is, because in Sanskrit, Maya means the veil of illusion. And there it was, the sound of my name, veiling me from the world. People not quite seeing me, not quite saying me. Then about 5 years ago, I started to feel off about the surname I was given at birth, my father's surname. Whenever I said it out loud, I felt like I was casting a bad spell. It felt distinctly not me, or at best, me from another century, even from another family. This feeling was a consequence of years of inner work, learning to own my truth, of wanting to distance myself from my loved ones, because I always knew that my path was away from them, far away from them, never with them, never alongside them. Also owning my truth that my values were never aligned with the culture I came from, and a truth that the patriarchal architecture was never my home. Then, last spring and 50 years after my first name change instinct, Greya arrived. Though still not my legal name, it will be one day. This need for waiting is partly logistical and partly a tenderness I feel for my father, the bearer of the surname I rejected, because I want him to spend his remaining days knowing my love in the language he understands, the language of the surname he gave me. I also noticed how it was only 2 months after my mother died last spring that this act of renaming happened. I suppose some thresholds are uncrossable, while our keepers still stand guard. I arrived at Greya the way I arrived at my decision to be an artist. It called to me. As I considered different names, such as from nature, imagination, I kept listening for that sound I will recognize myself in. A few names almost made it, but they all came with a predetermined meaning, and they all felt not quite me. And it's then that I realized I'd have to invent a surname for myself. So I made Greya up. It hints at grey without being trapped by it. And grey for me is the whole spectrum of having lived. The greying hair, the weathered skin, the grounding of aging, the long patience of an artist's disposition. The sound is rumbling, deep, it has an edge, warmly sharp, curious, mythic even. It can hold a whole world, my world. So what does the present and future look like for Maja Greja, both spelt with J's? Fair with occasional turbulence, I imagine. English native speakers will likely still mispronounce it, but this time I am not willing to bend my spelling to protect my ears, nor am I willing to spare the ears of others from my correcting them. Maja Greja, the name the 6-year-old Maja was always reaching for. She just needed the right materials to make it. The 5 decades, the artist's vocation, and her mother's blessing in passing. Maja Greja. 2 names, 1 heartbeat. They mirror each other, even visually. Both faces, the J as a nose, the vowels as eyes. Unhurried. Content.